name is Ahewa Patience Martha. I'm an external affairs officer with Uganda Bati. I worked in advertising for the past 4 years before I crossed over. And it's honestly good. It feels good to be back home and doing something that feels closer to home and closer to the heart as much as possible. So thank you so much for joining. And as the rest keep joining, we hope to have a great conversation. Before anything else, today we're here to talk about HR, and I'm really hoping part of the audience you can, and all part of the panelists that are going to be talking today, you can see some of your HR people. Feel free to inbox me the questions, I'll fire them. Don't ask too heavy, but you can ask freely. It's an open conversation, it's a free conversation, so we hope to learn, we hope to grow, and we hope to learn from each other as well. I'll just start off with the panelists or our people that are going to be discussing today. We have 4 panelists. We have someone from Next Media Services. We have a founder of the Found Limited. Please correct me if I pronounce maybe the organization's wrong, but if it's the Found or if it's the Font Limited, I stand to get corrected. And then we have someone from Jumia. And also we have accomplished human resource directors that are Scannet Group. So I'll just go in that same order as I've mentioned the different organizations that our discussants come from. I'll start with Joseph Chigozi. He's a deputy group CEO of Next Media Services. I'll give each just a minute to just introduce themselves and let us get to know who you are, what you do, and we'll move like that. From Next Media, then we'll have the founder of the Fount Limited, and then we'll have the HR director from Jumia, and then we'll have the person from Scannet. So Joe, over to you, a brief introduction, and we can start the discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Patience. And of course, from Uganda Party, my name is Joe Chigozi. I hope you can hear me. I'm the Deputy Group CEO for Next Media. Next Media is a leading media group in East Africa, and we have over 11 brands. We've got 5 TV stations, we've got a radio station, we've got a production company, we've got an online news portal, and of course, we're still evolving. Today, we actually celebrate 15 years, our flagship brand, NBS. I think when you see my video, you see NBS at 15. We celebrate 15 years in the game of media. And I'm glad to say that I've been part of the 13 years of NBS. I'm very excited. My role is essentially as a Deputy Group CEO, I'm in charge of strategy. And that's basically what I do for the group. And of course, I'm very excited. I'd like to thank Scan Group and of course, my fellow panelists for accepting to come and share on this very important talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. And by the way, congratulations. And yeah, I was about to say Next Media is one of the fastest growing media services. They've been in this game for 15 years, well to do. Thank you so much. Thanks to your team. And we can't wait to learn from you today. I'm actually excited to know how you guys do it because you have some of the youngest people in the working class. And at a certain point, you're still making it grand and big. So thank you so much, Joe. And next to our next panelist, we're going to have Ms. Halima Mohammed introduce herself. If you can have the floor, please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's going to be quite an interesting discussion, and I hope you're ready to take it all in. I am a professional. I'm a certified HR professional with over a decade of working experience within the space of HR. I am the founder of the Found Limited, which is a career guidance and recruitment firm. I'm also a career coach, as well as a senior HR consultant. I hold a bachelor's and a master's degree in from Kingston University, London, and my passion is to facilitate the growth and success of others by offering them guidance and advice that inform their decision making. So I'm excited to be a part of this discussion and welcome all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Halima. And it's actually pleasant to see that on the panel, we do have more women than men. though it was also interesting to actually have a gentleman because HR positions have been known to be more filled with women because you're beginning to be more compassionate and understanding. But besides that, we are smart as well. You've had Halima speak about where she's got her master's, her bachelor's. So thank you so much, Halima, and we honestly can't wait to learn from you and what exactly that you do as well. So from that, we're going to have the HR director, Jameer. Ms. Josephine, please.
Good morning, team. My name is Josephine Mangoli. I am a certified HR professional with like over about 15 years of experience. I studied HR. HR has been my everything from my bachelor's to my master's and even up to my PhD. So I've always loved to study and I'm always studying HR. In regards to experience, I've worked for pretty much very many companies, from institutions to oil and gas to engineering firms to technology firms. But right now, for the last 7 years, I'm working with an amazing company. It's called Jumia, and it's an online a marketplace where you can buy both physical product goods like your TVs and your fridges, and you can also buy food. So I'm really passionate about e-commerce and technology, and my role is to make employees happy and to take them to the next level. So I'm very happy to be part of the outstanding panelists, and I'm looking forward to talking to you and interacting with you in regards to this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. And you've mentioned something interesting. You're here to make employees happy. And it's end of month. I really hope Jamaica people are happy now. End of month. I hope Salo has kicked in.
Yes,
And
they're
I hope
happy.
no one is going to raise those issues in the discussion, because we're here to talk about how HR is transforming, how it's growing. And if someone says, well, it's end of month and next media hasn't paid us, it will be unfortunate. So
Yeah,
thank you
that's
so
true.
much,
You're welcome.
Josephine. We can't honestly wait to hear what you have to say. Lastly, we have Miss Catherine and from the Scanner Group. Please introduce yourself.
Right. Thank you, Martha, and good morning, everyone. If there's anybody who's outside Uganda, maybe it's afternoon for you. Good afternoon to you too. So my name is Catherine Bukachi. I am the human resource professional looking after WPP Scan Group. So I'm the group HR director looking after WPP Scan Group, which is really, we are looking after several agencies. Scanad is one of them. In Uganda, you know us as Scanad. But in other parts of the sub-Saharan Africa, because I'm responsible for sub-Saharan Africa, we have other agencies like Ogilvy, we have H&K Strategist, which is really a PR firm, and we do have also Group M, which is really the media agency. So we have a couple of agencies that I'm looking after. So we are present in about 8 markets. Prior to joining Scan Group, which is in the advertising industry, I had a background in pharmaceutical, worked for GSK, I've worked for Schneider Electric in the energy sector, I've worked for Nestle for over a decade. So in total, I have about 25 years working experience in the human capital field. I am the probably one of the few, because looking at my other panelists, they joined HR when we were business partnering. I started off HR when we were doing personnel work, kind of work. So it was rather boring. So it has quite evolved. So I'm very excited to be here to just really share the journey of how really HR has really evolved. And I'm a strategist, HR strategist, and I'm also an entrepreneurial veteran, and I'm very keen about growing people, unlocking potential, be it at the workplace or even in a business enterprise. So one of the things that I really talk about is how then do we develop an entrepreneurial mindset at the workplace. So it's going to be very exciting to see then how then do we shift the conversations around talent management into that space and having more ownership even at the workplace. So looking forward to this conversation, and all the best to everybody else around here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. So altogether, as you've had the years of experience, we have over 40 years of experience just by the panelists and the discussions that are going to hold. So I'm expecting this to be fruitful, to be engaging, to be open, and to be as honest as it can be, because the truth and also there are facts about HR that we need to face as both staff and employers. So thank you so much for the audience. Those are going to be our panelists for today. And to get into the theme for our discussion today, it is the evolving nature of HR in advertising companies. So before I even start, when I was approached to host this, there were a few facts thrown my way. And it is quite shocking that out of all the members, the member advertising agencies in under UAE, only about 3, if not even more or less. I don't think they're more than 5 have HR structures in their companies, in their organizations. So today we really want to get to the near bottom of why HR structures are important, how they're evolving in the industry, what tactics are being implemented, and are they working or not. So this is what Catherine, Joe, Halima, and Josephine are going to talk about today. And with each of their different topics that they'll be discussing, I just want to encourage everyone to listen, to learn, and also to ask questions. Like I mentioned, it's going to be interactive, so don't feel like you're just listening. You can also chip in, but this will be, of course, after later. We wouldn't want to have a conversation where the other is speaking over another person. So to delve right into it, we're going to start with remote working. We all faced the pandemic. We're forced to work from home at a certain point in our lives. And I can say for me, it worked for me as an individual. I think I was actually way more productive when I was home. So is 8 to 5 still viable? Is it something that advertising agencies are looking into making permanent, or is it something temporary? So what we're going to have Catherine and Josephine talk about the remote working topic. Let me just start with the very first question I asked Josephine. Is 8 to 5, do you feel like 8 to 5 is still a hell-bent option currently or in the foreseeable future? You're working with Jumia, and given that now people are home, yes, definitely there are orders that come through from your company to homes, but then there are also those in offices. So how did you work around the remote working option? Josephine, if you could take on that.
Yes. So pre-COVID, I don't think any company had very many options of remote working. It was mostly everybody comes to work 8 to 5. They get to do what they need to do. And it was very physical on site. Yeah. But I think COVID taught us a lot in regards to ensuring that your company is still efficient and effective in what they do. Like for example, for Jumia, of course, we're an online company and we deliver goods to different people, and we have the finance, marketing, and they all work on site. So during COVID, we as HR, we had to play a strategic role in ensuring that everyone is still working, everyone still has their resources, everyone is still engaged. So remote working was not something that was a norm for us, but we had to adapt very fast, But 8 to 5 was always seen as the normal way of working, but now with the new trends and the things that are happening, we really had to adjust very fast. I can say remote working has provided the company more flexibility. In my view, I think I think someone's speaking. Hello, can you hear me now? Hello.
Very well. We can
Okay,
hear you.
perfect. So like I was saying, adapting to a flexible work environment helped us to be more competitive, helped us to be more agile, helped us to be more productive. And even from an HR perspective, we not only had to adjust to the new normal of working, but we had to find a way to, change our schedules, find ways to ensure employees have the right data, have the right support, and they're still collaborating in ensuring that everything was done. So remote working has become, to me, the new way of working, and it seems like the most efficient way. I don't know if Catherine, that was the same for you, or was it different?
Yeah, absolutely. Just when I concur with you, because one of the things that COVID really taught us, I keep saying COVID really gave us an opportunity, and a lot of organizations really looked at this more than from a crisis and looked at it in terms of the opportunities it presented. And so one of the things which remote working, as I would like to call it, flexible ways of working, it really became a business imperative more than anything else. And one of the things that we actually figured we could make this work is to appreciate the different demographics within the organization and understand when can you really optimize at the times when they're more productive. And if you have demographics of very young employees, then for them, it really made sense for them to work later on in the afternoon rather than early morning. Because maybe, and being in the advertising industry, really the creativity, the creative juices for most of them, I'm sure you'll agree with me, Josephine, it comes out at night. And so what happens is late in the night, they're working long hours, and they're actually productive, more productive at that time. And so they'll probably come into the office far much later, or maybe not come in at all, depending on how late they have worked in, especially when they're working on pitches. So what you'll find is it gave us an opportunity to appreciate the moments that also matter for the other demographics. If you're looking at those who are, let's say, mothers who want to drop their children to school, or fathers who want to drop their children to school. So it introduced a flexible way of working where we say that we have core hours. So we did deploy a hybrid policy when we were encouraging the teams to come back to the office. So we actually had to create more of a buy-in rather than a push per effort. So what we did is we created a policy that clearly defines what are the co-working hours. And the co-working hours for us are 9 to 3, meaning you can come in anytime between 9 and leave by 3. So if you come in early in the morning at 7, you can actually leave a bit earlier, about 3 o'clock, pick your child from school and drop them back home. Because remember, during COVID, they were used to that kind of flexibility. And then we have core days when, again, they have to come to work. So we agree with certain areas, because you're also trying to create a balance where the team cohesion spirit is not lost, because we are social human beings. And so working in isolation is not really the way that we've actually been socialized. So then what we have done is actually to create a platform where we are saying, depending on the market, like in Uganda, they could probably come in 1 week and 1 week off. In Kenya, because of the size of the teams and what we say, 3 days is the co-working days in the office. So the other 2 days, you're flexible. So you can choose to come in on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or choose to come in Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. But then team conversations have to take place. So what it means is to ensure that we still have that team cohesiveness, the leaders agree what works and what doesn't work. And also, this should not be at the expense of our clients. So obviously that flexibility as well, some clients still have the flexible working, some do not, but we just adjust to make sure that that does work. So in support of what you're saying, Josephine, this is really a business imperative, and it's the way to work. And you will notice even when you're attracting talent into the organization, some of them will ask you about your working schedule. And so if you're stuck on the 8 to 5, you kind of are restrictive, because some people are used to, they've kind of adjusted the home dynamics. And so we really need to appreciate that kind of balance. Yeah.
Now that you say that, I really wish my boss was in this conversation, because he needs to have heard what you just said. All right. I thank you, Catherine and Josephine, for your input. And it's actually quite agreeable as well, because you find that there were so many people that were productive being at home, being in the comfort where they could easily access something. They are seeing their children. They don't have to leave and waste time in traffic, because you can spend about 2-3 hours in traffic every week. And that is billable hours, if you may ask. And I understand part of HR is to make sure that everyone is at par with their duties and responsibilities. However, now that you are not facing them directly during that time or when they're remote working, what policies or what tactics did you put in place to ensure that everyone was doing the duties and diligently? Because like you mentioned, when you're at work, you find people prefer to work late in the evening or in the afternoons. But now you find a client has a need that has to come in through the morning. But this person has said, I work late night, so I have to rest. And I'm also trying to get time with my kids or get time with myself to make sure that I'm in the right mindset before I can start my day. So how did you ensure that everything was being done seamlessly and there wasn't a lag or a delay in terms of delivery?
Okay, one of the things that I've come to discover, trust is a very key ingredient to the success of running an organization that is going to encourage remote working. I will repeat, trust is key. In the absence of trust, it becomes very difficult to deploy this way of working. So as I mentioned, we do have a policy, a hybrid working policy, which every employee has access and they have read, they have understood. We've had conversations within teams to be able to appreciate what does this mean. It has its advantages, it has its disadvantages. And disadvantages is where There are some employees who, if you're lacking in terms of performance or lacking in terms of drive, then it becomes very difficult to actually implement this. And on our policy, it's indicated that anybody who's having performance issues and probably they're basically pulling us behind and we need to be able to support them better, we can actually encourage you to come to the office every day. And we've been able to do that. So that is one of the things. The second thing is the regular check-in conversations. So you must have clear milestones where the leader, the team leader has actually regular check-in conversations to appreciate what their teams are doing. And so the element of autonomy, as much as it's sitting with the leaders, they have basically the right kind of team dynamics to appreciate. Does it work for my team 1 week in, 1 week out? Meaning I'm able to tell who's in the office and who's not, and then that kind of thing. If they're not in the office, how then do we basically be able to reach out if we guess later we need to do a brainstorm or something? So in smaller teams, you'll find that it has worked differently where, like I think in Tanzania and Uganda, that's what they did, in Zambia as well, and in Ghana, our markets, those markets did it that way. But in Kenya, it was 3 days in, 2 days off. However, you'll find situations where somebody also wants to work away the whole week, but they need to check in with their managers. On our system, we do have an internal system called Employee Shared Service, which we have our own portal where ideally an employee can be able to log in when they're in the office and when they're out. The truth is, the discipline is not at the level we would want it to be, but it's okay, because the part that I'm leaning on more, Martha, is the element of trust, where I'm encouraging teams to work better with their leaders and to be able to speak about stuff, because it's not all the time that I've logged in something in the system. And because we have a very clear clocking system, like when I'm at work at any one time, one can tell whether I'm at work or not. And we have a weekly reports that goes to every line manager in terms of time and attendance. But this is not just to track you being in the office. This really helped us when, let's say there was, when we wanted to do tracing. If let's say there was some COVID in the office, somebody who got COVID, we're able to trace and know who has been in the office and have they also sought that kind of support in terms from a healthcare point of view. It also helps us in terms of health and safety, in case maybe there's a fire drill or what. So we have different mechanisms within our offices to be able to know at any one time where somebody is. But then going back to the element of productivity, it's really output based. And so it really goes towards the leader and in terms of the working dynamics with the team. Because one thing that came clearly with COVID, presence does not equate productivity. It's really about how you engage with your team, how you unlock your teams. And then again, that trust element is where if a team member is struggling, can they put up their hand and say, hey, I have a situation here, who can support me? Are you proactive enough to be able to reach out to people? And one last point to that is we did have some very deliberate training sessions to our teams to help them appreciate how to use and optimize Microsoft Teams as a tool. It's a working tool, but then you can be able to schedule a meeting. I can check whether Martha is free or Josephine is available and schedule a team meeting. So it's not a matter of were you in the office for me to check in if you have a meeting. You can be able to use these tools very effectively and to be able to plan better. Okay.
Trust is a big thing. Sorry to interrupt, Josephine. You can go ahead, please.
Yeah, but I truly align with what Catherine has said. So like I said, during pre-COVID, there was no organized way of ensuring that everybody was working. But now, like we had to adopt, managers were intentional in ensuring that their employees were working. And for example, like in Jume, we're a very fast-paced environment where if an employee is not working, then you would tell by the end of the day that this is not done. So I think like managers are coming up with a schedule. Like we used different tools, like we used Hangout, we used WhatsApp, where employees would check in and confirm that they're okay, because we are not only checking on are you working, but are you okay? Because especially during COVID, dealing with so many emotions and the news of how COVID is affecting different people was really affecting many people. So I think managers were intentional in ensuring that the employees were not only okay, but also working. But we used different tools like Hangout, Dropbox, just to make them feel safe. So I can say the use of technology and different tools helped us survive the whole aspect of COVID. Yeah, but I truly agree with Catherine.
So what I'm learning from this is HR must have a synergy with every department, because even with remote working, there is a need for IT, there is a need for team leadership and everything. So thank you so much, Catherine and Josephine. I think that is really, really insightful. And what you've mentioned, I concur with you. I really don't think presence equates to productivity. But now the big question is, why are we still insistent on the 8 to 5? Because now that we're out of COVID, some companies were so quick to say, everyone return to work. Everyone get back. We need you here by 8:30. I need you leaving by 6. Why is it very, very rigid? I mean, why is it so hard for companies to let go of the working hours?
Let me jump on that one, and I'll tell you why, Martha. So you heard about quiet quitting, right? The phenomenon of quiet quitting.
Oh, please go ahead and share. I'm just learning. I'm here to learn as well. You can tell us.
Yeah, Josephine, I'm sure, and Halima will be able to know that
Yes.
phenomenon of quiet quitting. So here's what has happened, and this is what. So one of the things I did not mention in my introduction is I'm a certified coach. I've been a coach since 2016, so close to about 9 years. And one of the things I've come to discover is if you do not create a buy-in and you want to have top-down instructions to employees, it doesn't work for this generation. It doesn't. And so what happened during COVID, a lot of people rediscovered themselves. They identified a different brand they had, not the brand that Catherine goes to Scan Group. They discovered who Catherine is. So what has happened is the future of these employees is not what they knew it to be before. Because remember, COVID also awakened us to the reality that everything can come to a hard stop. Nobody ever thought that breathing was actually a privilege. Breathing air was a privilege. Nobody ever thought we'd be in such a space. So our minds have shifted, and we need to shift very fast. So this is a call to our leaders. It's our call to our leaders to recognize the same way we dealt with workers before is not the same way we are dealing with them today. They have rediscovered themselves. Some people were able to upskill themselves and reposition themselves differently. And hence my call out of seeking entrepreneurial skills when you're hiring rather than just business skills. And so the how we do things has really shifted. And so what this has meant is that we recognize, again, the element of job security became even more real than it was before. And so what is happening is everyone is watching out for tomorrow and not just today. And so what that means, where the kind of attention that we would get from colleagues coming to work and the level of loyalty they had 8 to 5, it's not there anymore. The other things that matter in my life, except this job, how about my family? What matters to me might not be what matters to you. So if you do not connect with an employee in the moments that matter to them at that point in time, you lose them. And when you lose them, they quiet quit on you. They will come to work, and that salary and finance that other enterprise they're really interested in. That's why I talked about the phenomenon of quiet quitting. So the transition has to happen at a very senior level where it's almost transformational. Now, what has happened is a lot of us organizations, what organizations have done, we've done what you call renovate. You've basically done patchwork to basically react to a situation that was there. We always talked about VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. But then we were put into a true VUCA situation, but we do not want to transition our minds. And so what has happened is, because we are unable to identify with the true issues that are pulling us apart within the organizations, then we cannot be able to deal with the actual issue. We are dealing with symptoms. And hence, that's where you find the backtracking of organizations, and now they're saying, come back to work. But it's not entirely the solution. The solution is to identify where the real issue is and unlock the potential of the employees exactly where they want to be. And so having very robust career conversations with your teams will actually help to transition the organization where it's supposed to be, but not to address the now. We need to address future fit for the organization. Okay?
As you're speaking, I made a call to my HR person. They need to be in here and listen, because this is actually quite insightful and it's very helpful. Like you mentioned, quiet quitting. You were talking to some research, and now that I understand what it means, it was actually quite rampant, and it's still an issue even up until now due to different reasons, but mainly even the remote working, because I feel like people can't even waste a lot of time with being just in the office, because you're going to find they have one activity that they're going to be doing the whole day, but now they are on company resources. There is electricity, there is bills, there is internet and everything. Where someone would have like saved maybe a certain fee on the different office logistics, now they end up even having the same bills month in, month out, because they want stuff there. You find they're providing lunch, they're giving internet, they're providing this. But whereas someone would have been having these options remotely and still delivering work, I don't think it's a win-win anywhere, and people should definitely adopt to the new HR that is happening, to the new era of working. Thank you so much, Catherine and Josephine. And I think the question that was in the chat from Billy, why did organizations decide to transition back to physical working? I think we've just answered that. Is it a decision that reflects lack of trust in employees? I think there is also a lot of trust building that HRs and the different heads of departments need to devote or learn to trust their staff that they're going to do the real thing. So for Billy, it was answered, and there was also another question, but I think that one will come in the topics thereafter. And we do also have another comment. I'm sorry, but I'll go as the topic comes. There'll be questions that are flowing. So instead of going way back, we can just tackle them then. There's a comment from Caroline mentioning that a lot of employees are doing quiet quitting, especially after most organizations ask us. Yes, that is so true. And I think I've just emphasized it now that I learned that it's actually a term that say brooding on TikTok. Some of these platforms, for it to go viral, and TikTok is such a robust platform for things to immediately, catch up. She also says, also flexi working is now an attractive benefit, which I think is really true. You mentioned that when you're recruiting, someone asks, what's your flexibility like? And honestly, for me, if you're not flexible, I won't work. I won't work for you, unfortunately. Now that I've learned that I don't have to sit in office for 8-9 hours to show that I'm working on one report, two reports, something. It can take me 30 minutes. I can end up even volunteering to do the rest. So she says also flexi working is an attractive benefit. That's true for most organizations to place them an age higher, and leveraging on performance of a staff, as one can come into 8 to 5 and not be productive. Yes, while others can work from home and get a lot done. So I think we all agree. And for the audience that is here, and you see that your boss is not here, this is the right time to send in the link. Let's get so many people to join. Let's get your bosses to join. Let's get your HR personnel, and also just for your learning purposes. Maybe in the next foreseeable future, you could be in the position that Catherine, Josephine, or Halima are in right now. So it's a good learning opportunity for us today. And thank you so much once again. We'll just get into our next topic of the day. But before we get into that, this is to Halima and Joe. Halima is the founder of Fount Limited, and Joe, like he mentioned, is the deputy CEO of Next Media. So Halima and Joe, I'm just going to give a scenario here that he's going to lead us into our topic. The scenario is this: you have noticed that members in a particular department are having irregular reporting to work. They lack enthusiasm. They're doing the bare minimum, but they're still working, but it's not to the standard that you want them to be at. They really don't have the zeal to also participate in workplace activities, be it internal or external. And then also, let's say 1 out of 2 or 2 people have handed in their resignation so far. And now you're worried as an HR person, because that raises eyebrows. Why are people not happy to be at work? And then you have a survey sent out, anonymous surveys, or one of those that we usually send out, where you say your name won't be mentioned, but I know technology is quite diverse. They should be knowing one way or the other if you pay a little fee. So then you notice that one particular line manager has been pointed out to be, in quotes, unbearable, and is causing this instability in the department. As HR, what is your course of action to ensure that the department stabilizes? Like in that scenario, where you notice that it's actually one of the leaders that is causing this environment, is causing the people to not want to be where they are in office. Halima and Joe, I don't know who wants to go first. In that scenario, what are you going to do?
I think Joe should tackle this. It's at the top of the pyramid.
Halima, I didn't wish you Idi Mubarak.
Thank you.
Yes, and to all our Muslim friends who are listening in. Yes, I'll attempt to.
Maybe Joe, you could be a little more audible. You're a bit
Okay.
faint. I don't know if
Hear me
it's
now?
just on my end.
Can you hear me now?
Could I hear from someone else if they can hear Joe properly?
A little bit faint. If you can just increase the volume on your
Yeah.
PC or.
Okay, that should be good. That should be good. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is this scenario is very interesting from the field I'm in, where you're talking about creatives and you talk about young people, and you have a manager who has become toxic, a manager who is not, motivating staff, a manager whose entire department is disgruntled. And
Joe, maybe you are still a little bit faint and it keeps fading out as you speak.
You're not audible enough.
Maybe Alima could go as I.
Okay, let me.
Let's have Halima take on as Joe organizes himself.
So I'm just going to start from where he stopped. So basically, if a manager is creating some sort of issue within the department, I'd like to believe that that manager reports to someone else. Yeah. So if you look at the hierarchy of the organization, there's a reporting system. So that means the person they report to has to now step in, someone who is their senior, and hold them accountable for their behavior. So with any type of disciplinary or grievance or concern within the organization, there's an HR procedure that you're expected to follow. And it starts with having a verbal conversation with someone, identify exactly what is happening, tell them that this is what has been brought to your attention. You can't obviously disclose by who, or how. It's just a point of concern, and just allow them the opportunity to address the issues that have been concerned and go through all of them with them, and discuss some ways that maybe what could be causing this sort of feedback that you're receiving. What is happening with them as the line manager? Is it about something could be happening that maybe is distorting them personally, that the energy is now translating to the rest of the team? Or it could be all sorts of reasons, but hence the need for the conversation to understand where this person is coming from and what could be happening for them that is now translating into the workspace. You can also come up with solutions on how to figure out how to help support them so that their behavior can be different. But if it's just a matter of maybe they need some time off, so you come up with solution based on the reasons that have come up from the discussion. So if it's something that requires them to take time off, if it's a behavior thing where they need training or they need to be sensitized on what is expected of them, then you have that conversation. But if it comes to a point whereby it keeps continuing, then you have to literally, if it turns into a grievance that needs to be handled, their behavior has become a little bit uncontrollable, then you have to think about making a formal complaint that involves you writing a letter and formally informing them of what steps that are going to happen if they don't actually change the behavior. So basically, when you're dealing with grievances, you always have the procedure is that you do a warning, then you do a verbal written warning, then you do a written warning. Then on the third offense, which is the final, if it's really gotten to a point of extremity, then you might actually have to think about dismissing them. And that means you can actually do a final warning before the dismissal. So you have to really follow the procedure, but with any grievance, you have to first have a conversation first and give people an opportunity to redeem themselves. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you think, or maybe before Joe chips in, because there's a tendency for HR, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been part of staff, and there's a tendency for management or HR to defend themselves. back up each other. So you'll find that maybe someone has turned a blind eye, that you can't be the manager. You need to learn a person, you need to adapt to them. But then you tend to realize that, you know what, their working style is actually toxic. And it's disabling the department. You find that you're losing way more staff, and even the people that you're recruiting are also having a short span before they feel like, you know what, I don't think I belong here. So do you think HR and management do back up toxic managers, line managers, and cover it as a way of we have to look good, we have to defend the hierarchy? Is it a fact? Is it a lie? Is it something that is done? And why? I think people in the audience that have been staff before would want to understand.
I personally haven't experienced that because I've always worked with people who hold each other accountable, because as HR practitioners, it's your responsibility to take care of your employees and their welfare. So if it's something that has been raised and it really creates an alarm, you have to really address it and hold people accountable, because it's not really, no one is going to take you to prison. It's just a behavior thing. Yeah. So if it's an issue that can be worked on, why not take accountability? If you have to go to some sort of training, then you can. So personally, I haven't really dealt with situations where people are backing themselves up for wrong behavior. Absolutely not, because the person who you report to is the one supposed to hold you accountable. It's not an entire team. Do you understand? The conversation starts with your direct report first, hence why there's a very defined hierarchy of reporting systems. So that person above you should hold you accountable before everybody else has to come in. For me, that's how I've always seen it play out.
Joe, do you think that's true on your end from your experience?
I hope you can hear me now.
Much
Yes.
better, thank you.
Yes, Alima, I was listening in. I think toxicity is the worst thing that can ever happen to any organization. The question is always, how did we get there? How did we get there? Now, of course, it depends on the culture, the kind of values you espouse as an organization. I think it's very important to create values that, you know, work for all employees. For example, at Next Media, we believe in equity. So equity is critical. I mean, I may be the deputy group CEO, but it doesn't give me the right to stamp, to frustrate other staff. I think it's very important for us to understand that the objective of the organization is for us to achieve. In fact, we've kind of, you know, flattened the hierarchies. That's one of the ways. Try and flatten the hierarchies. Look at the objective. What problem are we trying to solve? In the media, for example, we want to transform, inform, and transform. So how do we focus on that? Of course, cognizant of the fact that people are different, people come from all walks of life, and you know, they have different styles of management. But I think it's important, once you have a very clear policies and values that everyone believes in. Here we call them maxims. You know, I am proactive, I am equitable, I am, you know, I'm excellent, I believe in results, I am innovative, things like that. So we've created values that allow all of us to believe and understand our objective. But I must say, it happens. It is something that happens. And when it happens, I believe management has to deal with it in a very professional way that, you know, does not in a way compromise either. But also it does not mean that the senior manager should stamp onto, you know, the lower managers and stuff like that. So the first thing, of course, is to take them through a process that allows, one, engagement. How do you engage? You need to go and engage the entire staff and, you know, find out, you know, what's really happening in the organization. Give everyone a chance. And of course, if you're going to follow the process of, you know, whoever is culpable should be given a warning, like Alima rightfully said, you know, first and second. Then when it's a continuous kind of behavior, you have to find a way to shake hands with the senior manager. Because if you don't, that vice is going to spread across the organization, and it's going to affect the most important aspect of the organization, which is the culture.
Now, for you to enhance a good culture and then enhance a culture of high performance, there is no way you're going to be able to, look at that kind of situation in a lukewarm manner. Here we call it selling ice cream. Some organizations do sell ice cream. They want to be able to make everyone happy, and the managers are happy. It can't happen. You have to be able to make decisions for the good of the organization, but also showing the equitable nature of the organization. It doesn't matter at what position you are. All of you are very important, and you must be treated equally. You must seem, there must be a perception of equality. So for me, I think the process is critical, the engagement is critical, but also creating a culture that enhances high performance, that allows everyone to go through the process.
Thank you so much, Josephine. Right before I get to Catherine, I see her putting her hand up. You've spoken something about culture. And then before when you go forward, someone asks, what roles does HR play in building a company culture? Do you think culture drives HR management style, or does the HR management style drive the company culture? Just get to that briefly, and then I will get to Catherine and hear what she has to say.
So can I go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So they say I'm in charge of strategy at my organization, but we say culture eats strategy for breakfast. So culture eats HR for breakfast, or which one comes first? HR is responsible for enhancing and working to build a culture. Without a good culture, it's going to be very difficult to manage your staff, because then there is no sense of purpose. There is no uniform way of doing things. There is no agreeable way of doing things. So yes, which one comes first? Culture is very important, and HR is at the heart and soul of building culture, of course, with other managers, and it must be inclusive. Organizations must determine the kind of culture they want to have, and once they agree on it, then they work on it. So yes, culture is critical, and HR drives culture.
So HR drives culture. Catherine, you had something to add on to that?
Yeah, actually, I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I know Joseph and Halima were supposed to go, but I just wanted to really concur with what Joseph, especially when you alluded to the part of the employee experience in terms of how we engage. And maybe just a quick win, which I just wanted to share with all of us here in the different organizations we work in. Let's have some dipsticks. Let's have some engagement where we stop and appreciate. So how do you check the engagement within the organization? So you do have the surveys that take place. So we have our surveys done once a year. In other organizations I've worked in, they even happen twice a year. And when those surveys do take place and employees give you feedback in terms of what they have experienced from an experiential point of view, pay attention to what is being said and what is not being said. What is not being said is a reaction of how the environment is receiving reactions when, especially exit interviews from employees, a very good place to check and see the pulse of the organization. When it comes to, and sometimes I know management by grapevine is not allowable. However, it gives you an understanding of really what is being said and does not get to you formally to appreciate if there is a cancer somewhere that needs to be addressed. And on the point that Martha, you mentioned around whether HR is perceived to be in line with managers and kind of they align too well, and so there is no room for the other employees to actually build up conversations. It's a perception that has become a reality because of how situations have been handled in organizations in the absence of policy. One of the things that, because this is the second brownfield operations that I'm actually working in, my other experience in another organization called Schneider Electric did project the same kind of reaction, where there are no policies in place that are clearly structured in terms of what an employee's right is, what a line manager's responsibility is, and how HR supports the process. What is it that you can do, even let's say if it's an element of bullying and that kind of situation, then that perception that you alluded to, Martha, becomes a reality. It's not a reality, but it does become a reality because then employees feel they do not have an avenue to be able to escalate if they have an issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. So what I'm hearing is we both have a role to play as a staff member and as part of HR and management into how we experience work or how we make the work area an enjoyable place to learn. So that brings us to the work experience. So for Josephine and for Halima and Joe, just briefly, you're going to take us through what your understanding of work experience is and what role it plays in employee retention and some of the best practices and employee experience. So we'll start with Halima to give us the understanding of employee experience and the role it plays and when it comes to retaining and also hiring staff people.
So the employee experience starts from the moment someone gets aware of the position that is even being advertised by that organization, because that's the first time they're getting engaged with your company brand. So the experience starts right from them knowing that you exist by taking interest in the role that is being advertised. It also comes in when they are inducted, upon being recruited and successfully joining the organization. It's really about how you engage with them while they are there, all the way up to the end when they leave the organization. So the experience starts from the moment they get to know about the organization or the role of interest up to when they actually leave the organization. So that's the entire employee experience. Whatever they experience within that time, whatever they learn, whatever they do, whatever they see, whatever they participate in, how they feel, as long as it's with you as the employer, that is the employee experience. What was the second part of the question? How does it play?
Before we get into the second part of the question, I just want a yes or no on this one. Does employee experience involve career growth and opportunities?
Yes, absolutely.
Training and career growth opportunities for the staff. It does?
Yes, it does, because it's
Okay,
part of the experience. Whether you allow them to grow with you as a company, that is going to be part of the experience as the employee.
Part of the experience. Okay, yeah. So what role does it have, or what role does employee experience play in retaining staff? And how do you strike the balance between the employee needs and the company needs? Because company needs are really many, they're endless. However, also staff, as we get into the new years and the new generation, the needs of staff also keep increasing. So how do you strike a near balance while using employee experience?
That ultimately it is about if someone has a positive or negative experience with you as an employer. Yeah. Because obviously the employee experience is fundamental to the business performance. What does that mean? How the employees experience you should be able to motivate them to be able to perform. So that balance will kind of work itself out from a point of view of if the employees are kept happy, they should be able to also in turn keep the organization happy by the way that they perform and how they show up within the organization. So it really starts with your everything that a company needs to or requires. It is all done by employees. Yeah, so the balance comes from if they're actually kept happy, but how can you actually ensure that your employees are happy so that in turn they can perform to actually keep you as an organization happy? You really have to think about how you pay them, how they're being mentored, how they're being paid, if they're being challenged, if they're being promoted. Hence, you were talking about the growth opportunities, how they're being involved, any sort of engagement. How does your employee engagement actually play out within the organization? Do you have one-on-one meetings? Do you have individual meetings? Do you have team meetings? How are they involved? So that they actually are able to voice their opinions and speak on what their needs are. You also need to make sure that they're appreciated, and that appreciation can be whether tangible or intangibly. Definitely, employees will stay if they are trusted, if they're empowered, if they are valued. So the entire experience, making sure that those needs are met for them as the employees should be able to translate into them meeting your needs as an organization. And hence that should actually allow them to stay and contribute to the low retention rates for an organization.
I have a question for Joe. You have some of the youngest people, actually more young people in your organization, Joe, if I'm correct. I think the ratio from young to old, the young take it to a bigger extent. I want you to tell me what are some of the practices that you've taken on as Next Media. And you're like, we are focused on these and they are working for us. And I think other companies should benchmark and use them as part of the employee experience.
Yeah, very good question. Of course, I am on the fourth floor, so I kind of distort the average age, but the average age is 26 years, which is very low out of about 500 employees. So you imagine you're dealing with so many young people. What we've discovered is that one, the culture you create as an organization must speak to your age demographic. The kind of engagement you're going to have. Sometimes we've even gone ahead of trying to change the way we dress, because you want to create an environment which does not necessarily, so serious. Young people they enjoy working with fun. They enjoy, being involved. Actually, one of the things is being involved. We've created an environment where they are actually involved in the activities and decision making. That's very important. Engagement. We always do, employee engagement surveys, it's been talked about, and that score is always very important. We want to find out how engaged they are. Now, you use that data to be able to tailor make, the needs of the employees as Next Media. Of course, we've done a couple of initiatives which have been groundbreaking. We've created a mentorship class, which of course now is talking about, succession, is talking about, the journey, is talking about, the kind of direction I'm going to take as an employee. I'm 26, I'll come in when I'm 22. Where am I going to be in the next 5 years? Now, that creates a sense of purpose. So you do a mentorship. We have a mentorship class. So we've identified young people who we call the high people persons, high people with potential, high tops. We call them the hippos. So you identify a group of young people and you say, these are the guys who are going to take over the company in the next, 10 years, the next 5 years. So you need to create a sense of purpose. Young people must they love to live a purposeful life, but also, how do you enable creativity? One of the things that kills organizations, I know that policies are very good, you must have policies, but what is the end in the policy? I'll give you the best example. Young people today are in the gig economy. They work with you, they are present, but they are working elsewhere. So of course you have a policy, work stamps and all that, but it's not enough. I will come, sign in, stay on my desk, I'm doing nothing, there is no productivity. So what we've decided is that how do we create policies that enhance productivity? So we've said, okay, let's create the side hustle policy. So you what's your main hustle? Your main hustle should be, Next Media, but you probably have a gig which you do, outside our work time. How do we support you to actually develop work on that gig? Of course, as long as it doesn't have conflict of interest with our organization, then we can support you. For example, we're supporting, some of our staff who are into catering. We're supporting our staff who are in creative, many creative activities. Now, that is so important in the age demographic that we have. So for us, it has been one, tailoring policies that work for the people we have, creating an environment that is so open that we allow them to express their ideas and to be able to come up with new ideas and stuff like that. So yes, right from the leadership level, we've got one of the youngest leaders in our organization, right from the board to management team. So they are represented in every aspect of what we do. So that's very, very critical for every organization.
I hear you speak, and I want to just apply to Next Media after this. I hope you have a few openings. And the next time,
and that's the experience we're talking about. No, we always do have openings. We always do have openings.
So that is really, really good. And it's actually very important to show that you care about your staff and what they do on the side, because entirely we are trying to promote a generation that is financially independent. So in the case that, they're unable to do something, they've always been showing support by their current employers. The side hustles of our different staff members are actually important. So if you have someone besides work in the evening, they go and DJ in the evening. They have something to show support, show that you're with them, even though it's 30 minutes, 20 minutes, even though it's a purchase of 5,000, 10,000. That little small thing can create a loyal staff person. So what you mentioned, I really concur, and I like where it's going.
I
So
have a different experience with that, Martha. Sorry for interrupting. As a consultant, yeah, you actually have a lot of people that come in with concern about them disclosing their side hustles to their employers because they're not that supportive. I don't know if you were able to notice my facial expressions. I've not actually, this is quite news to me, to know that there are some companies who even have a policy in place that supports knowing and supporting employees' side hustles. A lot of employers don't want to hear it because they want you to dedicate their time that they pay you for to just focusing on their work and their organization. So it's quite news to me that, I mean, does Uganda Bati support side hustles? I want to know where else it's applicable.
Maybe if I can elucidate a little bit more, Alima. The truth is they do the side hustle anyway, and we know it. So what we're saying, we're creating an environment that says, look, you are a DJ, you have this, kiosk that you're working on. How can we help you? It's you cannot entirely, and it will be a drop. I mean, it will be walking blind for you to believe that you can actually stop them with the policies you have, the very good policies. They will come and sit on the desk, but they are not working for you.
My experience has been, yes, it's almost assumed. I believe even most people who come in as expatriates know that every Ugandan has more than one job. It's assumed, we all know it, but it's not actually supported. The key word is supported. It is done secretly.
Yeah.
So the fact that you support it.
So we support it, yes, we support it. We've actually, for example, we have, as Next Media, we control 70% of the digital space in Uganda. If you go and check our social media handles, we have about 7 million people following us on all our socials combined. Now, we have individuals who have 1 million followers. So we're telling them, no, look, come and sign a contract outside your job where you can influence for our brand, but also influence for other brands. And then we can agree on a percentage. Now, we are simply saying, look, you can never completely own employees the way you think you will. The word is in quotes. What is important is to create an enabling environment that allows them to differentiate between the side hustle and the main hustle. And then they'll give you value. Otherwise, if you curtail them with policies, if you stop them from doing these things, they're going to do them anyway. Others are MCs. You've seen one of the guys on our TVs MCing over the weekends. We support them. They have become top MCs in this country. They do their work and they make extra money and stuff like that, because you can never pay employees. I had someone talk about paying them well. You can never pay employees well to the level you want them to really feel that they've been paid well. Of course, we pay them well, I must say, and we pay them on time. But the needs of the employee and the needs of the company are always endless. You have to always strike that kind of balance. Yeah.
That's interesting, Joe. And I want this conversation to keep going because it's actually interesting and insightful, having to understand that some people didn't know and others knew, and some things are not supported and the like. However, definitely we do have a time limit to this. So we'll try to keep the conversation moving and progressive. Catherine, listen, sorry.
I just wanted to tell Halima maybe another way of looking at it, and just really agreeing with what also Joseph is saying, These ways of doing this, and organizations are quickly realizing it's rather you bring it to the forefront. Remember, we are looking at driving organizations with integrity, and integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching, right? And so because we know you are doing it anyway, what we have deployed in our organization is a code of conduct where we are saying you do declare the businesses you're doing, and the only thing you're going to be looking at, how does it conflict with the job that you're doing today? And we sign it off, so it is official. We know that you have this because we also have people who are doing influencers in this industry of ours. A lot of people are doing influencers on the side, and it's okay as long as you're not working on a competing brand. And so declaration is what is important. Let's have a conversation. So let's communicate. So it goes back to what I talked about, trust, the element of trust, right? So if we have a process where we are saying that every year we are asking you to do your personal declaration, and you could even be a director in a different organization. You come and you declare to the company. The company in certain cases will tell you, okay, for this particular one, it's a conflict of interest. And it could even be an issue of relational. Maybe you have your spouse working in the same organization, or your brother or your sister. We are going to basically help you see how does that work. And again, going back to the gig economy, the flexibility of time has become a reality. And so we can contract in a different way and say, maybe we don't need you on Monday to Friday. Maybe you do have this other side hustle and you want to do it at a particular time. You engage as a freelancer. So there are different models that we are actually, the future of work is not where it was before. COVID has taught us that we need to be agile in our thinking, and we need to be able to appreciate that we move with the pace of how the world is evolving. Thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that, Catherine. Yeah. I think it's actually really important, as you mentioned, everything still comes back down to trust. So staff and the hiring team should also learn how to trust each other. If I declare and come forward and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this and this, it shouldn't be subject to whether you hire me or not, or whether you deny me a few benefits. Because at the end of the day, we are all trying to survive. It's a game of survival here. But like you mentioned, even us as staff, we need to understand that as long as it's not conflicting, as long as it's not eating into our actual roles and duties to where we are employed, then I think it shouldn't be a problem. So I'll just move into the next topic. I'm sorry for cutting a few people short. We're just trying to meet the time so that we can go ahead with the day. So Friday, like I mentioned, and salaries are in, and I think we all want to have a good time. This conversation is actually pretty interesting and very enjoyable. However, we have to move forward. We're going to get into our next topic. I think then I had a scenario here, but there is already one presented in group. It's about conflict. We had someone ask about if grievances that involve HR, and when issues are raised, there is no feedback, which creates an environment where the aggrieved party starts quiet quitting. So it brings us into our next topic, which is handling feedback. Admittedly, young people are run defensive when it comes to issues that affect them. So you're going to find the person will either walk straight into your office and tell you XYZ, or they're just going to walk out of the gates and never come back. So how do you handle intense feedback from staff members without blowing out of proportion? And how do you also enable people to come out and give feedback without you seeing it as an attack on the company? So this topic we're going to be led by Halim and Catherine. We'll have Catherine starting with the first question that I asked because it was addressed to her in the chat. I mentioned Halim and Catherine, but let's have Josephine and Catherine, or at least we'll finish with Halima since she's just from talking about the first topic. So I can start with Josephine on this one, handling intense feedback.
I think as a company, you should create an environment where feedback is welcome. Feedback is something that is not seen in a way that is going to create a bad environment. So when handling intense feedback, especially like from a manager to a manager or an employee to an employee, I think it's very important to create an environment where managers and employees receive feedback in an objective manner. Yeah, it's usually very not an easy way, but this is what I always say in regards to feedback. Yeah, if you're giving feedback about how an employee is doing exceptionally well, I think it's very important to do it like in public. Tell everybody, Martha did this and it brought impact to the environment. However, if the feedback is intense and it's heavy and it's something that is not easy for someone to accept, or there might be like a back and forth where the employee says no, or the manager says no, it's very important to give that feedback in private, right? And if you're planning to give someone intense feedback, what I always say, it's very good to be prepared, yeah? As if I'm a manager and I'm giving an employee feedback, what I would do is I would gather my facts, right? I would look at what that feedback is. So let's say an employee's productivity has been exceptionally bad, or an employee has been maybe using cuss words and cussing out everybody in the company. Let me use that one, like use vulgar and is very toxic to the entire company. So what I would do is, as a manager, I would gather my facts. I would schedule a meeting with the employee. I would book it in their calendar. I would send them an email saying, hi, Martha, I really wanted to talk to you about this. And this is how the conversation would be. So I would give them an environment to prepare for that meeting. But the most important thing that I would do in such a conversation is bring the facts, present it to the employee and say, okay, this is what you're doing. This is how it's affecting the department. You know, you using vulgar words or you speaking disrespectful to other people is making them not be in a very good environment. And I would give them the chance to, you know, express themselves and say, okay, why they're doing what they're doing. So I think offering such an environment would give them an opportunity to actually say, okay, this is how I'm used to talking. And then after that, I would tell them, okay, now based on our company policies and procedures, this is what I recommend. But making the feedback private and with the intention of correcting, not just, you know, like yelling at them or making them feel bad is, I think, the best approach. And I think just telling them moving forward, based on what we've discussed, we've seen that this is not an acceptable behavior. I would recommend that you do this. And then if you do not do that, you would tell them the consequence of what their action would lead to, you know, like I would have to give you a warning and, you know, it could actually lead to disciplinary. So I think just presenting your data, showing your facts, showing them how it's affecting the company and the department and the environment, and then giving them an opportunity to express themselves and then coming to a middle ground is, I think, the best approach in dealing with an intense conversation in private. Yeah.
So Josephine, do you think currently with the HR manuals that we have, they ought to be tossed out and new ones developed to see how they can influence the current workforce that is incoming at the moment and is still present as well? Do you think old manuals are still working or not? Or they should be changed up a bit?
I think the old manuals were focused on a lot on the company, yeah? But I think many HR should go back into their policies and see, is it working for this environment, yeah? Like I work with a lot of millennials, they're very expressive. They can use the F word and they speak, and that's normal. But I think looking back at your policies, educating your team as often as possible and saying, okay, I know you're used to this, but in this work environment, I would propose you do this. I think just going, making them more updated way, meet the current work environment and population, yeah.
So if you've heard properly and you manage a few people here, it's time you throw out that old book, because I don't even know if you still read the physical manuals anymore. There should be a certain way, a creative way to get these manuals handed over to new staff and the current ones. So if you're still printing books, you're wasting company resources. Sorry to break it to you. There must be creative ways we tell people that, you know what, this is our company culture and this is how we handle it. So that is very good, Josephine. Thank you so much. Maybe the last question under that topic will be, what do you think has influenced the evolution of HR over time, from where it was to where it is at the moment?
Your question is what I think has revolutionized? Repeat that.
Yes. Well, what's influencing the change in HR? What's causing this whole, you know, we need to change ways? What are some of the factors? Just briefly, and then we can get into the last.
Okay. I think, like Catherine mentioned before, HR was seen more as an administrative kind of a role, where, you know, we would, you know, advertise positions, we would get people coffee, would make them happy. But now with the current needs of our employees, there are many needs that they need in regards to ensuring that we hire the best talent, their employee life cycle is amazing. So I think keeping up with the current needs of employees or potential employees has been the best way that we've had to adapt. Because if you still use the old way, like my mom, when she was applying for a job, she had to go to the newspaper, write out an application and then submit. Right now, that would never work, right? So right now, in order, like if you're recruiting, then you'd have to, go to a platform, advertise, do employee branding, adapt it to the environment that you want to attract. I think so. For HR to be strategic and intentional and actually be more efficient and effective, they have had to actually readjust their strategy in order for them to get the best results. Yeah. So it's been unstructured before, but we're moving to a more structured and efficient way. Yeah. I hope that
yeah, that actually flows into the next questions for our last topic. Questions, just one or two, so that we can have this disruptive but still very insightful. It brings us back to now technology. Like I mentioned, if you're still doing the manual way, it's high time you change. So speaking about tech and I want to have Joe say, do you think technology impacts HR practices? Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? Do you think it can act as a bias block for HR managers? How is it important, basically, as application of technology into the different HR practices? This is in terms of matters concerning inclusivity, handling diversities in recruitment, because you're going to find we can't hire because the HR manual says no dreadlocks, you can't come in like this, you can have a tattoo, we can't hire you. So there are those issues, but then how do you think technology role in the way you people recruit, in the way you handle the different HR practices in the workplace? Is Joe still with us? All right, we can have Halima take this one.
Yes. So in terms of recruitment, obviously it starts from, as Josephine was talking about, back in the day, you'd have to find an advert in the papers. But right now, with advertising is actually done on social media. I believe when it comes to recruitment specifically, I get quicker responses through WhatsApp groups. Even just asking people to go on the website tends to kind of give you less returns than social media. So social media has really helped create a certain level of quickness that people just kind of push the adverts a lot quicker. So social media platforms such as WhatsApp, LinkedIn, definitely being a professional platform allows that. So technology has contributed to making sure that communication is received a lot faster. But then even after the applications are received, obviously they are sent on emails. We no longer receive applications as bulk applications being handed over, dropped over at the office. People are expected to email the applications. Ideally, you should have some sort of HR information system that allows you to receive those applications if it's affordable to an organization. Some companies do have it, where they have HR information system that allows them to receive applications. But alternatively, people are expected to just email the applications and they are received. So even when you're going through the applications, there's a system that can actually help with the shortlisting exercise, going through the applications as well, and then giving feedback once the applications have actually been received, if you've been accepted. So all that entire communication is done better and efficiently because of technology. Yeah, that's as regards to the recruitment process at the very least. Every other, most of the HR technology helps if an organization is able to acquire an HR information system. Some organizations are able to, others are not. It allows for all the information to be integrated in one place. Also having an intranet, a company intranet, whereby all the policies are actually found in one place on the intranet, so that you're not going through the manuals as you were talking about, throwing the hard copies out. If the policies are actually available online, people can read the policies and procedures and what is expected them, and it's already just there available to them by the click of a finger. Someone else can add to that.
All right, thank you so much, Halima. For the interest of time, this is going to wrap up our conversation. I'd want to extend it further and keep hearing from the different experts we've had today. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Joseph. I don't know if you're still on ground, still online. Thank you so much, Josephine, as well. I think this has been a very interesting conversation. And for anything that we've picked out, I think some of the key takeaways is trust, trust, trust. Trust has been very, very vital and very highlighted in this conversation. Support for staff, so that you're a team. I know people hate to use the word family. If you can't use the word family, I would also advise not to use it, that we're a family. So we're a team. I think a team, you have synergy when you say it's a team. Support for your staff, team, trust, and the different key messages I think we're going to take away from this conversation today. It's been really insightful. Thank you for sparing your time. For the audience as well, thank you for tuning in. I'm also glad for UAA for picking me. It's always good to come back home when it comes to such initiatives. So this is the support we're talking about. Much as I left advertising, and it's still with me at heart. So it brings me now to the last bit of this. I just want to welcome someone from UAA just to give a few appreciation remarks, and we can call it a day. Is Franco Francis online?
Hi, this is Annette.
Yes, Annette.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Patience. Thank you, everyone. Catherine, Josephine, Harima, and Joseph. You've really brightened up our June webinar. You know, we are apologizing to everyone, the postponing and the inconveniences, but I think the date was well chosen. Now that the salaries are in, Friday, Saturday is around the corner, and weekend, I'm wishing you a very nice weekend. Thank you, everyone, for saving this time to hang out with us. Nice weekend, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Annette, and thank you once again to our panelists. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host for the day. My name again is Ahewa Patience Martha, and enjoy your weekend. Everyone, thank you so much.
For those who are still on, we can turn on our cameras for a group picture, please.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Can we just, if you can and you're in a good place, please do turn on your camera. Let's take a group photo. Don't be shy. If you're in your room, you can just remove your bonnet. If you're at work, just get a good spot. I want to see Digna. I'm not seeing Digna. Helen, Tracy, Denise. Let's just turn on our cameras for a few, and then we can take a group photo, and then we call it a day.
I don't have any question. I have no question.
Annette, do you have a good photo?
I beg your pardon?
Did you get a good photo? Liz, did you get a good photo?
One more.
So I think you can all just say salary. That usually makes us very happy. Okay, thank you so much to everyone for joining. Liz, did you get one?
Yes, we did. Thank you very much for joining.
All right. It's been a very good time. Everyone, see you.
See ya.